This guy, he was the total package. I know it's a phrase that's used today, but he was the original American Idol. He was the world idol, if you will, because he could not only could sing, but he could sing 5 different types of music. He could sing rock and roll, he could sing pop, he could sing country and western, he could sing gospel, he could sing rhythm and blues. There's not a...
What's up, y'all? It's Pluto. Welcome back to Classic Reactions, where we get into classic hits that I've never heard before. All right, y'all. So today it is a special edition Classic Reactions. Why? Because it's not music, but we are getting into Elvis, A Generous Heart. Here, we don't just get into music. This is a channel about everything entertainment, and we take a deep dive on some of your favorite artists. So, with that being said, special shout out to one of our loyal Pluto family members, Kathy. So, with that being said, thank you so much for continuing supporting our channel. Thank you for the contributions, and not just for me. We appreciate you for requesting this documentary so we all can watch along. So you guys make sure to show Kathy some love in the comments. Now, make sure you guys keep in mind, this is a musical marathon, a entertainment marathon. So make sure you guys continue to send requests in because we have a long journey ahead of us. And just so we're all clear, there are no donations required for requests. But again, I truly appreciate you guys who send donations because obviously it helps the channel grow. And to be honest, the donations go back into our channel to help me give you guys consistent, good content. So again, thank you guys so much. All right, so to wrap it up, all requests will be honored, you guys. Continue sending me your great ideas because, hey, not only do I want to see it, I want everybody to watch along to some of your favorites. So make sure you comment below and let us know what you want to watch. All right, so without further ado, this is Elvis, A Generous Heart. Let's get into it. I am so lucky to be in a position to give. It's really a great gift to be able to give. Elvis Presley. Oh, that's nice. Well, I guess this quote is setting the stage for what's to come in this documentary. You guys, let's get started.
We were in Jackson, Mississippi, and he got word that a little boy in the hospital was dying, and that he wanted to see Elvis, and he couldn't make it to the show. He was too sick to get to the show, and so we loaded up in cars, and we went to the hospital. And Elvis was wearing. Elvis met this little boy and talked to him, and he was wearing a cross that was made of garnets, and he took it off and he gave it to this child. And it was a real touching moment, just an hour or so before the show.
When Elvis started getting that money in and started becoming, he wanted to share it. He was a sharing person. And his dad got in early confrontations with him about giving so much away. You know, son, he would say, son, you know, we're pretty wealthy. Man, you're giving people houses. And you're giving guys on television, you don't even know, Cadillacs, and people that walk off the street in a dealership, you buy them a Cadillac, and pretty soon the bank account is going to take a hit. And Elvis would say, look, Dad, he said, look, I enjoy giving stuff away to people. He said, that's how I get my enjoyment. He said, I can go out and do a tour. He said, I can do a tour in 6 weeks and make $2 million. He said, I'm not worried about money. He said, I want to make people happy.
When my wife
All right now, Vernon. Now, it wasn't your money to make that call, but I do understand as Elvis's dad, you had his best interest in mind, and you really just probably wanted him to make sure that he would be okay for the duration of his life. And so maybe and hopefully that's all he meant. But I I don't see a problem with Elvis giving because God was blessing him and he was a blessing to others. So
wife was, gosh, 9 or 10, and her sister was maybe a couple of years older than that, they would go down to Graceland and just in the hopes of seeing Elvis. And they would go down there almost every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, and many times he would actually come down to the gate and put his hands through the gate and shake hands and talk to people, and he did it often. Sometimes he did it by himself, and that just made their day, you know, and it just, again, shows the type of person that he is, that he would do that. And back then, he had that sort of devotion in his fan base, and those people have gotten older, but they still devoted to him, and their kids are now big fans, and their grandkids are now big fans. And so it just says a lot for what he has done and the influence that he's had.
yes, you guys are definitely devoted, and I'm sure Elvis is proud of his fan base. But you guys, let me know what exactly was Graceland? I'm guessing that was Elvis's estate, similar to like Never Neverland with Michael Jackson. Is that the name of Michael Jackson? Listen, I don't know, but either way, did he have like a large estate that was popular in the way that Michael had Never Neverland? Okay. Graceland. Interesting.
For all of Elvis Presley's accomplishments, I think his greatest joy, other than Lisa Marie, was giving to others. He loved to see the smiles and the looks on people's faces when he gave them things. He really was a generous and kind man.
Now, you guys, another question I had is your kids or your grandkids Elvis fans? Did y'all pass the torch? Let me know. Now, tell me about Lisa Marie. That is his only child? I don't hear much about her, but we will get into her soon. I'm just a singer. Elvis Presley is the embodiment of the whole American culture.
For my darling, I love you. Man, that's pretty. And I always will.
The true measure of a man's success is not what he achieves and acquires for himself in his lifetime, but what of himself he gives to others. Elvis Presley touched the lives of millions and millions of people the world over. With his music, his movies, and his live performances, Elvis brought joy to the hearts of people everywhere. And even today, over 3 decades after his untimely death, Elvis's music and his legacy continue to have a lasting and profound impact on music and popular culture around the world.
I think Elvis did so much over such a period of time that he's just transcended any kind of other artists, such as not just music artists, entertainers and actors, and it's hard to tell a kid though why they should like Elvis. I think you see kids who actually see Elvis and hear his music who like it just for what it is. It's just him. He's sold more music than anybody else in the world. He's sold more music since he died than anybody else in the world. And that's phenomenal. I think it's, I'm not exactly sure about the amounts, but it's like he's had 60 or 70 gold and platinum records since he passed away. That's phenomenal.
That is so amazing. I mean, to have a loyal, supportive fan base that is literally still growing. Wow. That is a testament to who he was.
Still, it's not that so much it's the music, it's the man. They loved his early music, and his fans will buy anything that's put out about Elvis. Who else can do that? I mean, there's no one else that can do that, and there's no one else ever been able to do that.
He was a pioneer. He was a trailblazer. There was no book. There was no video or no DVD that you could go to and say, well, this is how you become a rock and roll star. There wasn't that, because he was a little rockabilly star. His manager comes along, Colonel Parker, and says, Elvis, what do you really want to do? He says, well, I want to be a major recording star, but also I want to do movies. He said, okay, I'll fix it up for you. Well, the Colonel gets Elvis from Sun Records over to RCA Records, gets him a deal, and then he gets Elvis into Hollywood, into movies, gets him on national television. Well, until, like John Lennon said, until Elvis, there was nothing. So when these people are growing up and they're 12, 13, 14, 15, they're highly impressed. And because this guy, he was the total package. I know it's a phrase that's used today, but he was the original American Idol. He was the world idol, if you will, because he could not only sing, but he could sing 5 different types of music. He could sing rock and roll, he could sing pop, he could sing country and western, he could sing gospel, he could sing rhythm and blues. There's not a singer on this earth today that can sing all those 5 musics. Some of them can really sing great 1 or 2, but not all 5.
And yet, for all Elvis's phenomenal success as an entertainer, perhaps the King's most endearing quality and the greatest of his legacies was his enormous generosity to others who were less fortunate than he was.
I always felt like he tried to give back to his fans more than he took from them. And whenever he gave a piece of jewelry away on the stage, when he take off a ring and hand it to a fan, it was just an act of love on his part. He just loved his fans, and they're what made him work, and why he worked so hard was his fans. He loved his fans.
He liked to see the enjoyment, because when a guy gives you a new Cadillac or gives you a house or gives you a free trip to Hawaii, you become elated, and that made him feel good. He didn't play golf, he didn't fish, he didn't hunt, all that stuff. And to give stuff away and make people happy, that's what he enjoyed.
There can be no question that Elvis Presley was one of the most influential people in the cultural history of America. His talent, good looks, sensuality, charm, and charisma endeared him to a vast legion of fans around the world. Not surprisingly, his popularity and stature continued to grow. With a sound and style that combined his many musical influences, he challenged the social and racial barriers of his time and changed forever the worlds of music and popular culture in America.
Wow. To have a legacy that transcends over decades, literally, I almost said a century because it's about a century. There is something nice about everybody. There is everything nice about Elvis. You better say that. Tupelo. If you're from Tupelo, drop a comment below and let us know. Is it really this country in Tupelo? Oh my God.
January 1935. It's the heart of the Great Depression in Tupelo, Mississippi. Elvis Aaron Presley is born to Vernon and Gladys Presley. He is a twin.
Come on, Aaron.
His brother, Jesse Garon, is stillborn, dead at birth, leaving Elvis to grow up as an only child. His father, Vernon, is a sharecropper, and the family is poor, often lacking the most basic necessities of life.
I don't think anyone realizes how poor the Presleys really were. It was the late 1930s, it was the Great Depression in Mississippi, and they were just living in abject poverty. Vernon couldn't even pay back the $180 he borrowed to build the house.
$180? Wow. Y'all were buying houses for $100 in 1935? I was born in the wrong time period. Elvis was the type of guy everybody liked. He was real honest and humble.
I got the key to the highway. Build out, I'm bound to go. Gonna leave.
In 1948, Vernon moves his family to Memphis, Tennessee, where he feels his job prospects will be much better. Vernon finds work in a paint factory, and Gladys becomes a nurse's assistant. The Presley family moves into a low-income apartment complex. Although their circumstances are vastly improved from the abject poverty they lived in while in Tupelo, the Presleys are still quite poor, and Elvis grows up knowing what it's like to want and need. Fate, however, has placed young Elvis in the right place at the right time.
They were very poor. I mean, man, they were dirt poor when they were coming up out of Tupelo, Mississippi. And Elvis lived in the housing project. The high school we went to was not a rich high school. And so, but we made it. But the point being, they were very poor.
It is so ironic that a lot of people say Elvis stole from different cultures and tried to basically capitalize off of the struggle when he literally lived the struggle. So again, struggle is not exclusive or reserved for one race or ethnicity. Anybody can struggle. And I mean, this goes to show you that, hey.
From the time he was a young boy, Elvis loved music. He was profoundly influenced by the gospel music he heard in church, and for the rest of his life, gospel would always remain Presley's favorite music. In school, both in elementary school and high school, Elvis was somewhat of an outcast and loner. While in high school, Elvis was often ridiculed by the other kids for the clothes he wore, his slicked-down hair, and the fact that he often walked around with his guitar strapped to his back. He played football in high school and sang in school shows. More than anything else in his life, music was a passion for young Elvis. In music, he saw hope for a better future.
Elvis and I met in 1948 at Humes High School in Memphis, Tennessee. Ironically and coincidentally, we were in the exact same classes together. He moved up from Tupelo, Mississippi. I was already in the school. And we went all the way through high school together. But where we bonded was in that 8th grade music class. It was Christmas time, and Elvis brought his guitar to school, which was uncool at that time. for a 12-year-old to bring a guitar to school in 1948. And he got up in front of the class, the music class, and sang 2 country songs.
Walk on, walk on, walk on, walk on, walk on, walk on.
Kids can be so cruel. Now, why did they ridicule Elvis for bringing his guitar? That's crazy. But I love that he knew exactly what he wanted to do. Pretty much, he knew that music was a passion from childhood. And that's special when you can identify something that you love and you follow through with it. Listen, you got to respect Elvis for that.
Walk on, I say walk on. I'm gonna keep on walking till I find my way back home.
As Elvis got older, he often went to the nightclubs on Memphis's legendary Beale Street. These clubs were the home of the black rhythm and blues singers who had come north from the Mississippi Delta. Young Elvis was profoundly influenced by these artists. Quite often, Elvis would go over to a place called Shakedown, which was the black neighborhood near his apartment complex. There, he would sit on the porches and listen to the men play their guitars and harmonicas and sing the blues. All these experiences would have an enormous and lasting impact on Elvis as a singer and performer.
Well, once you go black, you never go back. But for real, I love that he was invited to all the cookouts. Listen, Elvis was the cool kid in the hood. Let's just call it what it is.
1953, Elvis walked into the Sun recording studios in Memphis. He recorded an old country song called My Happiness. Sam Phillips, the owner of Sun Studios and Sun Records, heard the recording and at first was not very impressed. But Phillips' secretary, Marion Keisker, was impressed with Elvis and made her boss listen to the recording again and again. Sam Phillips gradually became very intrigued by the boy's raw talent. About a year after Elvis first walked into Sun Studios, Sam Phillips contacted Elvis to record a song for possible release on the small Sun record label. At first, the recording session didn't go well, as Elvis just couldn't connect vocally with the songs Phillips had chosen for him. Then, one of the background musicians suggested Elvis sing a classic rhythm and blues song called That's All Right. That's All Right, recorded on July 5, 1954, is considered by most music historians and fans as the true birth of rock and roll music in America.
He was born
Really? Never heard of that song. Should we check it out?
up in Memphis, Tennessee. He was exposed to the country music here. He was exposed to the Beale Street rhythm and blues music. And so when he combined, like Elvis said, when he combined that along with gospel, it came out rock and roll. And that's just the way he was brought up.
When you talk to Uncle Sam, and we used to go over to Uncle Sam's house, he used to grill hamburgers out for us and things like that. And you'd hear him talk and things like that. Say in the 60s, yeah, I think he definitely realized what he was doing and what a statement he had made with Sun Records. But when he first started, I think he just was wanting to cut good music. I mean, he just wanted to record great music. I mean, he wasn't trying to change the world at that time. If you look at the first music he recorded, it was mostly blues. I mean, few people know he first recorded B.B. King, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Bobby Bland, Rufus Thomas. Hardly anyone really knows that except the true fan of Sun Records. And then Elvis popped up, and it was those same guys, except it was a white guy. And he could sing just like they could. But I still didn't think he wasn't trying to do anything but really cut really good records. It's what's in the grooves. It's always been what's in the grooves. And if it's in the groove, that's all he cared about. And Uncle Sam was able to take that raw sound and somehow fill it up to make it sound like it was so much more than what it was. And if you've ever been into 706 Union, it's a small place. So it gives you, not only was he a genius producer, but he was a hell of an engineer to be able to get the sound that he did out of that studio.
Well, shout out to Uncle Sam, because it sounds like without Uncle Sam, would Elvis have realized his full potential and what he could really do musically without the genius brain in producing from Uncle Sam? Who was Uncle Sam? The only Uncle Sam I know is the government.
Presley, in my opinion, was a person probably with as much talent vocally that could be used with so many different types of songs as I've ever heard of in my life. He didn't follow any one path. He didn't just sing rock and roll and for that rhythm and blues, country. He sang pop. And when you can do that and give it an unbelievable, creditable interpretation, there's something to be said for it. Very few of us could do it. I had a feeling from the very beginning that he had unusual, real raw talent, and that's what I like. The rawer the better if you had the basics. I felt that if there was anybody that could do an amalgamation of rhythm and blues, or race music as they called it back in the 50s and 40s, and country music, and come out with something that was, well, it wasn't even named at the time. People not only enjoyed his work as an artist, but they believed in him as an individual. And also, I think to know that he basically did not change a lot so far as his relations with people. Just the ordinary person on the street was something absolutely imperative to his unbelievable success.
When Elvis
All right, so a few things. Now, they keep saying that Elvis was the absolute first person to, I guess, do rock and roll. Now, listen, I have no idea. I am not from that time period, so I wouldn't really know because I haven't researched. But with that being said, do you guys agree? Was Elvis the first rock and roll musician? Because I'm almost sure there had to be rock music before Elvis started to make music. Another thing is, I find it so cool that Elvis was able to go to Memphis, learn about country music, start singing country music, combine that with R&B and blues and get rock. Come on now. That is pure talent.
walked out of the Sun Studios on July 5, 1954. He never could have known that within a very short time, he would become one of the most influential and beloved Americans of the 20th century. Even in his wildest dreams, he could never have imagined what he would accomplish in a short but truly remarkable life.
Well, since my baby left me, I found a place.
Elvis is my religion. If it wasn't for Elvis, I'd be selling encyclopedias. Bruce Springsteen. Okay. Now, you know you're a legend when you influence legends like Bruce Springsteen.
To dwell, well, it's dead at the end of Lonely Street, that heartbreak hotel where I'll be.
It is estimated that Elvis Presley has sold over 1 billion records worldwide. This is more records than anyone in the history of the recording industry. Just in America, Elvis has had 141 albums or singles certified as gold, platinum, or multi-platinum.
Y'all, are these real numbers? Because this is insane. Like, I can't even imagine doing what I do for a career and being at the top of the charts in that magnitude. You know, because it's one thing to be the best at what you do for maybe a period of time, but to be the overall best in the history of, whew, that's a bad man.
Recordings and films are enjoyed all over the globe, and he is known throughout the world by his first name.
Elvis was so different. He didn't want to be like anybody else. He studied stuff, and it wasn't by accident that it happened with him. It was because, number one, he got to have the talent to pull it through. Talent will pull through all kind of junk. I don't care what you do. Talent will come to the top. But Elvis, when he got there, he knew what to do. He knew you had to look different. He knew you had to act different. He knew you had to dress different. He knew you had to talk different. He had all that worked out in his own mind. He was very observant. He would study movie stars, how they acted, and he studied like Clark Gable left his shirt open and didn't wear a T-shirt. He studied like how Jimmy Dean and Brando wouldn't smile in their publicity pictures, and in his early pictures he wouldn't do that. He's a pretty sharp guy, very observant. He had studied other entertainers. He'd observed how they handled people, how they were nice about signing autographs, how they were nice about shaking hands, how they were nice about taking pictures with people. And he said, if I ever make it, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can. He was ready when the break came for him to be a superstar, and he was prepared. But the secret was he loved being Elvis Presley. He loved it.
Early in Elvis's career, his manager, the controversial Colonel Tom Parker, made good use of the relatively new medium of television. And as with everything Elvis did in the entertainment business, his TV appearances made history. Elvis made his national television debut in 1956 on Stage Show, a weekly series hosted by Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey. He followed this with 2 appearances on The Milton Berle Show.
This is the first time that the Hancock is going to rock and roll while still at anchor. Here's a young man who in a few short months has gained tremendous popularity in the music business. His records are really going like wildfire. He's America's new singing sensation, our new RCA recording artist. Here he is, a big reception for Elvis Presley.
Side note, do you guys know that RCA record label is still, till this day, one of the biggest record labels in the world? They have very famous artists like Doja Cat and Lotto, which are people that y'all may not know. But I say that to say, wow, to be signed to Elvis's label in present day as an artist, that must be amazing. That's crazy.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and now I got a little surprise for you. Here for his very first public appearance, I'd like you to meet my twin brother, Melvin Presley. Melvin?
Hello, friends of Radio Land. Radio Land.
Radio Land, this is television. Melvin?
Milton or Melvin?
Melvin.
Must have another brother, too. Television? What the heck is that?
Well, it's a little box.
Yeah.
It's got a window in it.
Yeah?
Millions of people out there. And they're looking in a little window.
Yeah?
They can see you, but you can't see them.
What a dirty peeping Toms. But Elvin, you're wonderful. And keep buying them records, will you, folks? Mel, who's you? Elvis. Hot dog. Elvis needs the money. Well, I'll tell you, you're mighty proud to be here on this ship here, the Ocean Coke. And I want you to know the Ocean Coke.
Ocean Coke?
Ocean Coke. That's what it says on the side of the boat. USSHANCOCK. Ocean Coke. What's the matter? I know how to spell.
That's USS Hancock, Melvin.
Keep buying them records. I'm real proud of you, Elvis.
Well, Melvin, I owe it all to you.
You owe everything to me. That's...
You taught me everything I know.
I'm glad you told that to the folks I did. I taught him his singing style. I used to drop grasshoppers down his pants. That's how I keep jumping around. Grasshopper. Keep buying them records.
In his second performance,
Listen, Melvin said, I don't care what y'all talking about. Keep buying the records. I love it. I love the comedic relief in the performance. Elvis was so far beyond his time. To think how far entertainment has come, how far technology has come. This man explained television as a window on a small screen that you're peeping through to see them on TV. That is mind blowing.
on The Burl Show, Elvis did a version of Hound Dog that was, for the time, so provocative that it caused a national scandal. Elvis then appeared on The Steve Allen Show, with Allen mocking the sensation of The Burl Show by having Elvis dress in a tuxedo and perform Hound Dog to an actual basset hound. After his appearance on The Allen Show, Elvis did a short interview with Hy Gardner for the program Hy Gardner Calling.
Hello?
Did you have fun tonight on the Steve Allen Show?
Yes, sir, I really did. I really enjoyed it.
First time you ever worked in tux or tails?
It's the first time I ever had one on, period.
What do you keep in mind mostly? I mean, some of the songs you're going to do, or some of your plans, or what? What goes through your mind?
Well, everything has happened to me so fast in the last year and a half till I'm all mixed up, you know. I mean, I can't keep up with everything that's happening.
You guys, we checked out that interview on my page. Go find it and watch it and let me know your thoughts.
The reigning king of television at that time was Ed Sullivan with his Sunday night variety show. Sullivan had said he would never, under any circumstances, have the controversial Elvis on his show. But after Elvis appeared on the Steve Allen Show, Allen's ratings surpassed Sullivan for the first time, and Sullivan agreed to book Elvis.
And I would not have went if I was Elvis, because you're not going to use me for views and ratings if you didn't genuinely want me there. Like, no, Elvis should have said no. What y'all think?
Sullivan paid Elvis $50,000 to make 3 appearances, which was, at that time, more money than any performer had ever been paid to appear on a network variety show. Elvis's third appearance on The Sullivan Show came in 1957, and this was the show in which Elvis was shown on camera only from the waist up, one of television history's most memorable moments. In 1958, Elvis was drafted into the Army. Even his detractors admired Elvis for doing his patriotic duty and not using his fame and fortune to somehow avoid his Army service. Elvis was discharged from the service in 1960.
Hold up. Elvis went to the service in the midst of him blowing up in his career? I thought Elvis went to the Army straight out of high school. That is insane. Y'all, you mean to tell me Elvis was a superstar selling artist and he went to the Army? So I'm guessing that was the time where you had no options. If they drafted you, you had to go. Was that the situation? Because why would he stop his career to go to the military? Very commendable. I can give a lot of respect because, I mean, that just goes to show you again, he absolutely had to just be a kind, generous person from his heart if he stopped his career to go fight for the country by choice. That's wow.
Elvis, do you think the music has changed since you've been out of the service? I mean, since you've been in the service?
Possibly, yes. I can't say, really. I haven't been here long enough to even know. Excuse me. The only thing I can say is that if it has changed, well, I would be foolish not to try to change with it, you know. But as of now, I have no reason to change anything.
Shortly after his discharge from the Army, Elvis once again made television history when he appeared on The Frank Sinatra Show. Sinatra gave his show a welcome back Elvis theme to herald the King's return from the Army. Elvis was paid $125,000 to appear, again setting a television record for the time.
You know, I always wondered, as a matter of fact, while you were singing Elvis, I thought to myself, I wonder what would have happened if I had recorded Love Me Tender instead of you. I wouldn't have made any difference.
I think it would, about 2 million records less.
He should have. You smarty pants.
For my darling, I love you.
It's pretty all the time, Frank.
Sure does, buddy.
And I always will.
You know, when you talk about Sinatra and Elvis, you are talking about different types of singers, but you're talking about a similar impact, but no one had an impact like Elvis had. I mean, Sinatra, as a music man, was just fantastic. Elvis is just an icon. And it's just one of these things, you know, it's just some people have a charisma about them. Some people have something that you can't get out of your mind, and he was like that. And it was for everybody. And I see it all the time. You know, grandkids. I have a grandkid who's 13 years old, and she's, you know, she asks about it. She'll see something on TV, and she'll wonder what's going on, you know. Why is going on with Elvis? Who is Elvis? Now, of course, she knows because she's here, but she doesn't understand. She just knows the name. It's almost like he's still alive.
Elvis's appearance on The Sinatra Show was the last time Elvis appeared on television for 8 long years. In the following 8 years, all Elvis did was make movies and release soundtrack albums. Elvis made 33 films in all, and every movie he starred in was a box office success.
33? That is a lot of movies. Now, all 33 movies was a box office success. Come on now. Are these facts? I don't know about that, because that is very rare for every single movie to be a box office success. He was very successful. I didn't know the magnitude of his success. So, Kathy, thank you again, because this is teaching me a lot. Let's keep going.
Critics have often dismissed Elvis's films as formulaic and lightweight. In truth, most of his movies were not what anyone would consider classics. Nonetheless, starring in 33 consecutive hit films is an accomplishment not even the biggest stars in film history can lay claim to. And this screen success only proves that Elvis was, by any measure, the biggest and brightest star in the history of American popular culture.
It's so. If there hadn't been an Elvis, there wouldn't have been a Beatles. Ooh, now that's a strong statement. Y'all let me know. Do y'all agree? Oh, well, listen, John Lennon said it, so I guess it's true. There you go.
Between 1960 and 1968, despite the continuing success of his films, Elvis did no concert tours and did not appear on television. With the emergence of the Beatles and the British invasion that followed, popular music was going through radical changes, and Elvis himself had doubts as to whether or not his music and style were still appealing and relevant to young people.
I think that the only time that Elvis had any confidence issues was in the 1960s. Sure, he was still a star, he was still making movies, he was still a box office attraction, he was selling records. I mean, there was no problem there, but there was something else on the horizon. It was the British invasion. And Elvis really started to feel a little self-doubt.
In 19...
Wow, very relatable to know that even a powerhouse star like himself can, you know, lack confidence in certain regards just due to things like competition and changes in his field. You know, that made him second guess himself. That lets you know that he's just a human. And even though we looked at him as Elvis, he still had doubt within himself in some regard. So I love the relatability of that.
1968, for the NBC network, Elvis made what has come to be known in musical history as the Comeback Special. This show, simply titled Elvis, was and remains one of the most critically acclaimed musical specials of all time. The success of this show gave Elvis the confidence he needed to once again start performing, both live and on television. Elvis decided to go on tour again. It was the first time since 1957 that Elvis played live shows. Between 1969 and 1977, Elvis gave nearly 1,100 live performances all across the country.
Oh, Elvis was working.
He did that 68 special, and the ratings were terrific. So he knew the light was still burning, the fire was still there, but he wasn't sure about a live audience. So when he did that opening in Vegas, he was quite nervous. And he told us, he said, guys, he said, I don't know how I'm going to go over, but we were trying to build up his confidence. Oh, Elvis, you're going to be great. Elvis, you're going to knock him dead. You got that look. You still got those looks. You got that stage performance in you. And we know that you're going to sing your back hind off. You're going to really sing your can off. And Elvis, that's all you can do. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. But Elvis, I guarantee you, they're going to like you. And when he walked out on that stage, and that room was full of a lot of tough people. There was a lot of stars there. There were a lot of critics there. A lot of people who came to see if he still had it or not, that were well connected in show business. And he just blew them all away. And from that moment on, he knew he was back.
It was in 1973 that Elvis made TV history again. His Elvis, Aloha from Hawaii concert via satellite was seen in 40 countries by close to 1.5 billion people. In fact, it was seen on television in more American homes than man's first walk on the moon.
Y'all, what? 1 point whatever billion? More views than the man on the moon. Do y'all understand? Listen, Elvis, at this point, wow, is all I can say.
Elvis Presley died in August of 1977 at his Graceland home in Memphis, Tennessee. He was only 42 years old.
I think that a lot of people remember exactly where they were when he died, President Kennedy died, maybe Martin Luther King died. So I jump in my car and I drive about 100 miles an hour to Graceland. And I'll never forget, as soon as I got there, they recognized my car and the gate swung open. I shot up to the house, went in the back door, and in that room right off the kitchen, it was turmoil. It was the saddest scene I'd ever seen in my entire life. Everybody was crying. There must have been 8 or 10 people in there all crying, holding on to each other, just swaying, holding their eyes. And Mr. Presley ran over. His dad came over and grabbed me, hugged me, and he said, George, I've lost my son. I've lost my son. We've lost him, George. And about that time, his doctor Nick walks in, and he said, guys, can you gather around? We gathered around. He said, yeah, he passed away. Elvis has left us. And it was like, when he said that, we knew it was official.
I was sick, and someone called me and they said Elvis died, and I said, no, that's a bunch of baloney. Elvis didn't die. They called back and they said, yeah, Elvis is dead. And
at the young age of 40-something? Wow. They say the good die young.
It was like, you go into shock. You don't believe it. I didn't believe Elvis could ever die. I never thought of the world without Elvis. I never thought, how is the world going to get along if Elvis is dead? It just couldn't be, but it was. By then, in my life and my relationship with Elvis, it wasn't over selling him jewelry anymore, because he hadn't bought any jewelry for me in a while then. I just loved him and wanted to, be with him. He was my friend.
The cause of death was officially listed as heart failure. There has always been much controversy surrounding Elvis's death and his abuse of prescription drugs that no doubt contributed to his passing away at such a young age.
Wow. So they say it was heart failure, but obviously there are rumors, and it's a lot of rumors, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. But rest in peace to Elvis, and we'll leave it at that.
In the end, however, on balance, the good and positive things Elvis contributed to the world, the absolute joy he gave to millions the world over and continues to give, far, far outweigh the few negative aspects of his life.
The difference in Elvis and everyone else was that that he obviously loved his fans and cared for his fans, and he was so honest. You just didn't doubt that he was pure as a driven snow. I don't think his fans saw him as out to sell a ticket to his show. He was there to entertain them. He never had any money. He gave all his money away to other people. He was just a good person, and people knew that.
Despite all his unprecedented and monumental success as a singer, performer, in movies and on television, the one thing that gave Elvis his greatest joy in life was giving to others. Perhaps this, above all else, is the King's greatest legacy, his giving heart and the enormous generosity he showed throughout his life.
I don't care if my fans rip the shirt off my back. They put it there. Elvis. Wow. Ooh, that's a powerful quote. I love it. You guys, what do you think about this quote?
Elvis grew up during the heart of the Great Depression, in a poor Mississippi family who lived a simple existence without material things or even some of the basic necessities of life. But even then, Elvis showed his generous nature.
When he was a teenager in Tupelo, he had an ice cream cone. Well, he's sitting on his steps in front of his house eating his ice cream, and this black kid comes by, lives not too far. He said, "Elvis, how you doing?" He said, "Oh, fine." He said, "Boy, ice cream. Man, I wish I could afford an ice cream cone." And Elvis said, "Shoot, eat some of mine." And Elvis gave this black kid, now I'm talking 1940s. It's not cool then in Mississippi, and he let this black kid share some of his ice cream. But that's just a small example of how it all started with him. He was a sharing person.
As a teenager, Elvis worked at a variety of jobs before his music career began. He worked as a movie usher and saved every cent he could to buy his parents a picture of Jesus. He once said it was the most favorite gift he had ever given to anybody. Even though Elvis went on to achieve incredible fortune and fame, he never ever forgot what it was like to be poor. He was extremely generous to many, many people.
The big TCB ring that he's so famous for wearing that he made, I made that ring. It took me 3 tries to make that ring. The first ring I made, he gave away, and where it went, I don't think anybody knows. But the idea was he wanted a stage ring. He wanted a flashy big ring that would say, "That's Elvis Presley's ring." So the second ring I made was a large horseshoe ring that he wore in Hawaii, and he ended up giving that ring away. He said it still isn't what I want. So the next ring I designed, the TCB ring. I actually made the ring out of balsa wood, like you would make a model airplane. And I carved it out of balsa wood. I sawed out the letters. I made the entire ring out of balsa wood, hand painted it with airplane dope and put rhinestones in it. Took it out there. He said, "This is exactly what I want." So then I made the original ring, and when I gave it to him, when I presented it to him, the ring is so magnificent that I wanted it to really show off. So I asked him to come downstairs to his dining room table, which is this wonderful Waterford chandelier hanging over it, And so I opened the ring box, took it out, put it on his finger. He just went bonkers. I've never seen him as excited about anything as he was. He just went crazy, and he said, I want to do something for you. I know how hard you've worked to do this ring. So what can I do for you? And I said, well, I'd like to have that Lincoln you got parked out front. He said, oh man, that car is a house. That is my car. And I said, I know, that's why I want it. And he said, well, you know what? You earned it, you can have it.
In the South, everybody mostly came in the back door, especially at Graceland. And the only people that parked in front of Graceland was him. He had a key to the house. We didn't have a key to the house. So we'd park in the back and come in the back door. Now the media later on called it the jungle room. We never called it that. We just called it the den off the kitchen.
The jeweler had the nerve to ask for Elvis's personal car? And Elvis gave it to him? What? Now, come on. When you ask somebody, what can I do for you? Normally, they'll go small. They'll ask for, or if anything at all, they may ask for something small. But then again, they do say a closed mouth does not get fed. So the jeweler asked and he received. I can't be mad at him.
So I'm walking up and there's plate glass there. And one of the guys, they told me about this later. One of the guys said, hey Elvis, here comes GK. He said, yeah, cool, yeah, okay. He said, but Elvis, it's his birthday. And Elvis said, what, it's his birthday? And he said, yeah. He said, well, look, I just bought this ring at Thunderbird Jewelers in Vegas, but I want GK to have it. While I detain him, I'll engage him in some kind of conversation. You guys run up to my room, it's in my jewelry case. It's a green emerald with 21 diamonds and 18 gold diamonds, 18 karat gold. Somehow get it in a box and slip it up and give it to me. So I'll walk in, we start talking. I said, let me ask you, get this out of the way, because I'll sit around and be nervous about asking. He said, what are you talking about? And I said, Elvis, the radio station wants to know, they're gonna do this promo, if you can do like a drop for them or cut this liner thing for them. And I said, Elvis, before you even answer, I know that you got a contract with RCA. And I said, I know you can't do it. And I didn't get the rest of the sentence out. And he said, shut up. I said, what? And he took his arm around and swung it around, and somehow one of the guys had snuck up behind him and slipped it in his hand. And he came around with it and he said, happy birthday. And I said, what? He said, open that up. And I opened it up and there was this ring was in there. I said, Elvis, you son of a gun. And he said, yeah, he said, GK, I just want you to have it.
Elvis also displayed enormous compassion for those who were sick or in need of medical assistance. Elvis always remembered the vulnerability of illness and death from his own life. On January 8, 1935, in that small two-room house in Tupelo, Mississippi, Gladys Presley gave birth to the twins she had been carrying. Jesse Garin Presley was born dead. 35 minutes later, his twin brother, Elvis Aaron Presley, was born at 4:35 a.m. Elvis then spent the first few weeks of his life in the charity ward of a Mississippi hospital. The loss of his twin brother, Jesse, had a profound effect on Elvis and how he perceived life. Studies of twins whose siblings had died in utero or in the early stages of life indicate that a significant and prolonged experience of loss remains in the surviving twin. Oftentimes, the surviving twin will question, why wasn't it me that died? Or did I do something to make him die? They often feel guilty about their own survival. For Elvis, this feeling of guilt only increased as he achieved incredible fame and fortune. Parents.
Wow. To have guilt over something you had no control over is very hard to deal with. Wow, you guys, did Elvis speak much about his brother throughout his career, or did he pretty much keep that private to himself?
Too have a sense of guilt when one twin dies and often overcompensate to the surviving twin. Through her grief, Gladys Presley saw Elvis's survival.
Wow, beautiful family. Let's take a minute to honor Gladys and Vernon. And of course, we got baby Elvis. Beautiful.
As an omen, a sign that he was destined for greatness.
His mother was a wonderful, wonderful lady. She was the sunshine of his life. It rose and set in her. He worshiped the ground she walked on. Sure, he loved his daddy, but his mother was the one. And I was very, very close to his mother. And if she liked you, boom, it was all over with Elvis. He automatically, even though if he liked you, he really liked you, of his mom because he thought she was a great judge of character and a great judge of people, which she was. She had that instinct that guys came around. She said,
I mean, don't all moms know best? Come on.
Elvis, that guy's phony. Elvis, that guy's for real, you know. She could do that, and she was right.
In many ways, both Gladys and Elvis continually felt tremendous loss and vulnerability because of Jesse's death. Elvis and his mother were very, very close, and of course, Elvis himself was completely devastated by his mother's death from heart failure in 1958.
Had she lived, he would be alive today.
Wow. So Miss Gladys passed away in 1958. So honestly, she didn't even get to enjoy the fruits of her son's labor. Because Elvis really didn't start taking off until 1954, 55. So that literally gave her 3 or 4 years to enjoy that experience. Man, rest in peace, Gladys.
She had a tremendous thing over him, whereby everything she said was law. There was no arguments, there was no confrontation, there was no debate, there was no discussions. If she said, Elvis, I really wish you wouldn't fly, wouldn't fly. She said, Elvis, I really wish you wouldn't hang out with that guy. Guy was gone. She said, Elvis, I wish you really wouldn't do this or do that. He wouldn't do it.
For Elvis, perhaps it was the memory of his brother Jesse, as well as his sense of vulnerability that often inspired him to donate to medical institutions and charities. Elvis knew that his fame could be used to raise money and awareness for charity. He lent his name and image to the American Cancer Society, as well as many other charitable causes. He gave blood and got vaccines, all under the watchful eye of photographers and journalists who spread the image of Elvis, the man who cares about others and their health. In 1961, Elvis began a yearly Christmas tradition of giving over $100,000 to more than 50 charities. Elvis gave cash to many charities and often donated various personal items and mementos to be auctioned off to raise funds. In 1968, he auctioned off one of his cars, a shiny Rolls-Royce, to raise money for a charity that cared for mentally retarded children. Elvis even bought the Franklin D. Roosevelt presidential yacht and donated it to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which then sold it for $55,000. Elvis rarely publicized his generosity. In fact, the only occasions when he did publicize his charitable work were when the ensuing publicity would aid in raising even more needed funds or awareness. Most times, Elvis chose to give totally anonymously. There were many times when he would read in the newspaper about a person or family who had fallen on hard times or was in desperate need. On these occasions, Elvis would send money to try and help. He paid off people's debts and mortgages and paid for operations or medical care, not only for friends and family, but often for total strangers in desperate need. There is no way to know how many times Elvis did this, but according to friends and family, Elvis did it on many, many occasions. Watching an Elvis concert was memorable in and of itself. There were many live performances Elvis gave in his career that were given solely from his heart and to benefit others. In 1956 and again in 1957, Elvis gave concerts in his hometown of Tupelo to raise money for the Elvis Presley Youth Foundation. On March 25, 1961, Elvis performed a benefit concert at the Block Arena at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This performance raised over $65,000 toward the building of the USS Arizona Memorial, which was completed the following year. This donation made Elvis Presley the single biggest individual donor to the Pearl Harbor Memorial. In 1973, when Elvis gave his legendary Aloha from Hawaii concert, the sale of souvenirs and related items raised more than $75,000 for the Kulakalani Lee Cancer Foundation. In 1975, Elvis gave a concert in Jackson, Mississippi that raised more than $100,000 for the tornado victims in his home state. As a small child, Elvis survived a killer tornado that had ripped through Tupelo, and so he felt great compassion for the victims of the Jackson tornado. Buying a ticket to an Elvis concert and buying a souvenir were also ways that the king contributed to charity. Quite often, the proceeds from these sales went directly to a designated charitable institution. In 1975, at a concert in Asheville, North Carolina, Elvis took the diamond cross that he wore around his neck and gave it to a 5-year-old girl in the audience. On another occasion, Elvis went on stage wearing a huge opal and diamond ring on his finger. This ring was reportedly worth between $35,000 and $40,000. During the concert, Elvis saw a little girl in the front row who was sitting in a wheelchair. He took the ring off his finger and gave it to the little girl. There was no...
Listen, he was so generous that it's almost unbelievable. Like, did he literally give every single thing he had away?